Minnesota Vikings General Manager Rick Spielman is our guest for X's and O's this week, courtesy of the Minnesota Lottery. Once again, the GM is pinch hitting for the head coach. The Vikings are on a short week. The LA Rams are on a shorter week, and those forces collide Sunday at noon on KFAN. It's the Vikings and the Rams from US Bank Stadiums. The head coach, Mike Zimmer, toking you anything for these pinch hit performances?
No. I just appreciate the opportunity to come down and sit next to PA and do these shows. It's a real privilege and it's an honor.
That's beautiful. Now, down memory lane we go momentarily on KFAN, the Vikings Radio Network, and Vikings.com. 2005, and I don't know what triggered me to think about this when I was preparing. 2005, when you were an analyst for ESPN, what was that like? I mean, did you enjoy it? Because I recall you were very good at it. You're loquacious. I'll explain that word later. And you're opinionated. You know that one. But a decade and a half ago, what was that like?
To be honest with you, it was a great experience. It was an opportunity to learn that side of the business. I think seeing what the media has to go through and what's required of them to get their stories, how they get prepared for shows like this, to work with established talent like yourself, really helped me, I think, when I get the opportunity to do things like this.
Who did you generally work with there? Because they've turned over talent so many times.
I remember Merrill Hodge was one that I worked with.
Did he have that big old knot in his tie?
That was in the checkers. All the patterns.
Right.
So
Merrill Hodge was a tough football player when he played for the Steelers.
Yeah, he was a great football player.
And not to get too far off topic, but I was chatting with Tuff Borland, who was an unbelievably good linebacker for Ohio State, wore number 32. And you know, he's on the practice squad now. But we were going back through the annals of Ohio State linebackers: Bobby Carpenter, Andy Katzenmoyer, Chris Spielman. I mean, your brother played in the NFL and played well, but your brother was a dominating presence for the Buckeyes, wasn't he?
Yeah, no, he had a great career at Ohio State. I remember his first game was with Earl Bruce, and he did not start. And they said that he was pacing up and down the field, that they finally got so enough of him that they threw him in here. Then they went in and made a couple plays, and then the rest was history after that.
Yeah. I had my binoculars on you at Soldier Field late in the game. You guys are winning by 2 scores, but you were still pacing. I mean, you got Hagan and his
Have you seen us play this year?
You guys are unstoppable now, winning 2 in a row. But I see Hagan's tiny legs behind you. Sam Newton is the media relations guy on the sideline every game, the conduit. And you were pacing a little bit, even though up 2 scores. I mean, you had it in the bag. Why pace?
Yeah, no, it's the way we've played and the way the NFL is nowadays. You cannot take anything for granted. And you know, we probably didn't have our best performance last night, but we made plays when we needed to make them. And that's what good teams do. If they're not playing to the level or the expectations, they find ways to win. And I thought last night, you know, the defense did a great job coming up with a couple turnovers. DJ Wanham, who I'm sure, you know, kind of came on the scene last night with 3 sacks. And you can see his athleticism and his speed because Justin Fields can run. And I know he's a quarterback, and at his workout that I was at, ran in the 4.4s. So, but to see DJ get an opportunity to make some plays last night, and Sheldon Richardson and the great caused fumble that he had that no one's seen. And I thought it was a great.
And he would have scored.
And it was a great job by Coach Zimmer challenging that.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of critical plays that were made last night, even though we didn't play our best, but we played well enough to win, and we found a way to win.
Now, last time we did this.
Did that sound like ESPN?
That was terrific. I mean, you know, I feel like Kenny Mayne up in here, former quarterback at UNLV. The last time we did this into the Steelers game, you asked me a trivia question. I'm now going to ask you one that is not on the set list, but he brings up the name Sheldon Richardson. Sheldon has 2 touchdowns in his career. What's unique about them?
That one you got me. I do not know.
When he was with the New York Jets, he scored 2 offensive touchdowns as a fullback.
Wow.
So I had that on the game calling depth chart, and when he was getting to the house, I was like, hey, here comes number 3.
And who is your research analyst? Because that's a great job, because I know you wouldn't take as much time to go look at a fact like that.
That would be me, myself, and I. Now, on the Cousins contract, I was holding that till later. Let's get into that now. Anyway, Rick Spielman's our guest on X's and O's, courtesy of the Minnesota
Where's
Lottery.
Jordan? Jordan's not here today.
Which Jordan? We have 19 Jordans working at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center. Let me get this out of the way. We mentioned your brother Chris off the cuff. How about his Lions? Now, I know it might be a sore subject because they beat your team. How about your brother's Lions and Dan Campbell and just getting that thing going? I mean, I just feel good for them.
Yeah, no, they had a great win this past weekend against a very talented Arizona team. And, they're rebuilding that program, but I thought Coach Campbell does a great job from a leadership standpoint. You see those guys week in and week out, and they've had a lot of close games that could have went either way as well. But they go and they compete every week, and they give it everything they have, and it was a great win for them yesterday.
Are you heading to any bowl games anytime soon?
Yeah, I'm looking at potentially going out to a couple, but a lot of this Omicron and whatever, all this is going on, and the NFL kind of put us in a little bit of a lockdown mode too. So I was pretty fortunate. I got out to 22 games this year over the weekends, and there are a couple of things that I've seen. But if I do not get to a bowl game, a lot of the guys we're going to be able to see at the Senior Bowl, at the East-West, at the Combine. So we have plenty of time for that.
Now, I wasn't with you guys last year on the road. I called the road games from US Bank Stadium. But this year, traveling with you guys and calling the games on the road, and the Chicago game was enhanced protocol. So I would imagine it was as close to last year for a road trip as we've experienced this year. And now that I've done it, there's a galvanizing feel to it with, like, certainly I'm an ancillary guy, but like with the team and the coaches and, not much to do. So you're all together and maybe people don't like it because they're kind of being told to do something. But I totally noticed like a real tight knit feeling. Do you?
Yeah, no, it's an opportunity. I mean, you can't go anywhere, and then this weekend, through most of the season, if you were vaccinated, you were able to at least go out to dinner, or you were able to at least see some of your family members. We went into the enhanced protocol for this week and kind of went back into last year. And but no, I know our guys are a close-knit group that get together. It's a long day, especially when you have a night game.
Yeah.
To be around in that hotel. But I think with the close-knit group that we have in that locker room, I think they enjoy being around each other.
Yeah, you've done this a long time, Rick. I mean, a decade and a half here. But, this group individually, I mean, this seems to be a tightly knit group. Like I'm talking to Xavier Woods. He's only been here for a year, might only be 1 year. But like coming from Dallas and the way they do things and the way you do things here, to hear him talk about Minnesota and just how family oriented it is and stuff like that, that's kind of an underrated calling card with players coming here.
Yeah, and that's it starts with our ownership group. And it starts with the culture that we try to build, with the type of people that we bring in here, because you're going to go through adversity during the season, and you're going to go through the ups and downs. And when you can get a group of players together in that locker room that care for each other, you're going to be able to get through not only the good times, but the tough times as well.
Why was Kendricks ejected Monday night?
I think that call, I know Coach Zimmer will probably address that in his press conferences this week, but anytime a quarterback goes to slide, and I believe there was a hit to the head, that they're going to get ejected.
Okay.
So it is what it is. It's not like college where he's going to miss the next game or the first half of the next game.
Okay.
But,
So that was standard operating procedure, because it frustrated me that the reputation of the player was not taken into account.
Yeah, I think he said he's only had 2 penalties.
Yes.
And I think he tried to pull up at the end, but unfortunately, when you take a shot at the quarterback's head when they're going down sliding, regardless of when they slide, there's potential for ejection there.
What have you liked about Nick Vigil's season? Free agent this year, but he's been with you all year, had a pick 6 at Arizona. What do you like about his season?
He's done a fantastic job for us. When Barr was down, he ended up starting for us, playing next to Kendricks, makes a lot of plays, very smart, very intelligent football player. And then when Barr came back, and he's still starting, but we're in a lot of nickel situations where we only have 2 linebackers on the field, he becomes a core special team player for us. So we were very fortunate to get him this offseason, and he's contributed and helped us win ball games in his role.
Ezra Cleveland, it's when people talk about the offensive line, not many talk about Ezra, which means, there aren't a lot of penalties, and, it's the public is not going to be an all 22 type culture. So if there are penalties on Udo or somebody visibly gets beaten, you'll hear about that specifically in the age of rage. But Ezra, with a position change and a coach jumping in like 2 weeks before the season, how's he done?
Yeah, he's really adjusted through this transition, and he was a left tackle. I've always played left tackle. We moved him inside to guard last year. He started maybe the last half of the season last year. You can see him getting used to that, because when you go from tackle inside to guard, things happen so much quicker.
Yeah.
With a lot of the twists and stunts going on, the defensive tackle's on you like this right away. But he's making adjustments, and he's improved last year through the season, and you see him take another jump this year. So we're excited about his progress and where he's headed. The one thing that really sticks out about him is not only his size, but his athleticism. And I know just watching the game last week against Pittsburgh, and when you see him on those pulls and some of the things we do, or him getting to the second level linebacker and keeping his feet, or him getting out in space on screens because he runs so well. Those are the type of linemen that we try to bring in to fit the scheme, and he's checked all those boxes.
Earlier this year, Rick, you guys extended right tackle Brian O'Neill. Absolutely one of the very best in the league. But for those who don't follow it closely and are not elite offensive line minds, which would be me, why is Brian so reliable?
He's about as steady, and week in and week out, he goes out and perform, where I know the coaches are not afraid to put him on the best pass rusher. So the pass rusher goes over to the defensive left or our right side. Usually he's going to be in one-on-one situations. You see his athleticism, because when he came out of Pitt, he started out as a tight end, but in college, he played both on the left and right side. So that was a pretty smooth transition for him over to the right side. And he is just, every week I go back and we're grading players, and his grade is consistent. We can win for 16 games. We can win for 16 games.
Yeah.
And it never varies. And again, I think that was a critical signing for us as we built this offensive line. We got a really young group up there, and that line takes some time to come together, and those guys have to learn as they grow. But that's an example of Brian, just really stepping into it now, becoming one of the best right tackles in the league, in my opinion.
And speaking of the Pitt Panthers, you hook Aaron Donald this weekend after getting Akeem Hicks. Bilal Nichols, just very underrated player on the inside. And now you get Aaron Donald, the best in show at his spot. 2014, when he was drafted out of Pitt. What do you remember about analyzing Aaron Donald into that draft?
Everybody was worried about his height. But you have to take into account that he is so explosive and ability to get off blocks and play the run. But I don't know if there is a quicker twitched defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman, that can get upfield. And the thing that you watched, even in college and what you see today, once he gains an edge on an offensive line, either his outside shoulder or his inside shoulder, he has such power and leverage that he's going to get through, and he's going to get to the quarterback. And he has a unique ability to understand where the quarterback is in the pocket. And then the other thing is not only the strength and the power, but the explosiveness and the twitch, even to when you see him shag down quarterbacks that are scrambling. He is a unique athlete and one of a kind for that position.
You mentioned Rick Spielman, general manager for the Minnesota Vikings, our guest on X's and O's, KFAN, Vikings Radio Network, and Vikings.com. DJ Wanham, he had 3 sacks against the Bears. That doubled his total for the year. DJ has 6 in his second year. Is it difficult staying patient sometimes? Because like DJ, that hit on Rodgers he had last year, it was one of the biggest plays of the year.
One of your best calls of the year.
Do you remember it?
I do remember it.
You want to emulate it?
No.
What did I say? How about you call a game and I make one of your 7 seventh-round picks one year? Anyway, staying patient. I mean, DJ Wanham and KJ Osborne, those are two perfect examples where it has to be difficult as a general manager. You take them, you like them, you want them to go immediately, but it doesn't always work like that.
No, we've kind of taken a philosophy that we take a lot of guys with some unique physical traits, and I think, Andre Patterson is one of the best defensive line coaches in the league, and a lot of these guys that come out don't know how to rush the passer because they're going against guys that are spread offenses, that are in 2-point, and all they're doing is single blocking. But when you get up here, there's so many different types of pass protection, so many different ways these veteran offensive linemen set you up because they're playing a game with a defensive lineman too. So they have to learn as well on what works for them as a pass rusher. And when you watch the tape last night on DJ, the thing that stuck out to him the most was, they tried to throw that screen pass,
and
he
got
unbelievable. His hands up and stripped the quarterback of the ball. But his athleticism for his length and his ability to run down that quarterback on a couple of times, that's rare for a guy that's 6'5", 260 pounds that can break down in space and go against maybe one of the best young athletic quarterbacks that we'll face this year.
Rick, with Andre, and he's your co-defensive coordinator, but he's identified as a defensive line coach and one of the best in the history of the game. What makes Andre so good at what he does? Because, I mean, we can go back to 2019, that Sunday night football game at Dallas. Your defensive line's decimated. Armon Watts and Jaleel Johnson are basically never playing. And they come in, and Zeke goes for like 1.9 per carry. Watts has a career high in sacks. So does DJ Wanham. You're playing James Lynch a lot, and he's contributing. Kenny Willick is 7th rounder Michigan State. And they're good players, but I mean, what does Andre do so well to galvanize these guys?
I think he just drills them with a technique, and he understands what it takes to be a good defensive lineman and what it takes to be a good pass rusher in this league. So, but it's not something that you can just sprinkle magic dust on them and all of a sudden they learn it. It's rep after rep. It's every day in practice, hand work, footwork, working both your hands and feet together. Understanding what your strength is, because each one of these defensive linemen have a different strength in how they're going to get to the quarterback. Some of them are more finesse and working edges. Some of them can use power and then get to the quarterback. So he tries to identify what they do best, and then he tries to work and hone in on that technique.
Justin Jefferson, Pro Bowler, 9 touchdowns. What overall impresses you with the young man? I mean, outside of his route running, and still to do what he did last year with a virtual offseason, it's one of the most amazing things I've seen in my 20 years, to run the routes as crisply as he did. But just overall, Jefferson, what are some things that impress you?
I would say his maturity and that he wants to be great. And there's no question about the physical ability that you see on the field. But he's not satisfied. He comes into practice every day. He comes into this building every day. 1, how can I help this team win games? And 2, how can I make myself a better player? And his goal is to be one of the best receivers ever to play in the NFL. And he just comes in with that kind of mindset on his work ethic, how he continues to try and improve in all areas of his game. And that's what's going to make him a pretty special player.
The LA Rams, and doing what you do is very difficult, being a general manager. Now, the way they handle draft picks, is that an absolute win now mentality with the way they've treated it?
Yeah, I don't want to speak with them because I'm not sitting in their meetings or what they're doing. They made a couple big moves, getting OBJ there, making a big trade with Von Miller.
Nice of George Payton to give him Von Miller when you still had him on the schedule.
He got a pretty good deal. But they got a very talented football team, and they got a lot of very talented players, so it's going to be a big challenge for us this week.
I joked earlier about the quarterback, but seriously, off the season Cousins has had, and next year is the final year of his deal. When do you start thinking about that? Like what the future of arguably the most important spot looks like?
Yeah, no, we right now we're just focused on this season, and we got a big game coming up against the Rams. All that, we have plenty of time to figure out. I know where we're at from a cap situation next year, but a lot of it we just got to finish this season and stay honed in on this. There's plenty of time to figure out what we need to do in the offseason.
And you always, correct me if I'm wrong, but you always have to be considering your team, your cap, upcoming free agents, upcoming draft, and how it meshes. That has to happen always, right?
Yeah, no, that's why right now we're in our draft process. I think I have a pretty good understanding. I'll have a better understanding once all the juniors declare on where the strengths and weaknesses are in the draft. We work consistently with our pro department on evaluating the unrestricted free agents that are going to be out next year. But I don't know, someone may still get extended before that time comes.
Yeah.
But you have to put them in buckets. So if the defensive tackle market is weak in the draft, which we felt it was last year, that's why we go get a Michael Pierce and a Dalvin Tomlinson. So you're always trying to find what bucket you need to go into to try to fill a need, whether it's in free agency or whether it's in the draft.
When you are prognosticating or scheming for one of those 6th, 7th round picks, I mean, that has to start December the year before, right?
No, that usually happens on game day, to be honest with you. And last year we didn't have many.
Yeah.
But we felt that the draft fell off a little bit after the 5th round last year. So we went and actually created, I think, 7 picks between the 3rd and 4th round. So every year it varies and it differs, depends on the depth of the draft and what we see.
Merry Christmas to you and your family. It's a pleasure calling you friend, and thank you very much for pinch hitting.
Happy holidays.
That's Rick Spielman, General Manager for the Minnesota Vikings, and I'm Paul Allen. Thank you, Brett Blakemore. Thank you, Curly Harris with the Vikings Entertainment Network, Bob Hagan, and everybody else with the Minnesota Vikings and KFAN. I'm Paul Allen. That's X's and O's on the KFAN Minnesota Vikings Radio Network.